A study tracking more than 103,000 people found that eating dinner after 9 at night raises your risk of stroke by 28%. Not from what you ate, not from skipping medication, from when you put down your fork, 28%. And almost nobody, including most cardiologists, is talking about it. Here is what makes this more serious than a single statistic. There is a cardiovascular event that is supposed to happen inside your body every single night, between midnight and 4 in the morning. A protective window that your heart depends on, a late dinner, quietly shuts it down, every night, for years. And there is something else. A second finding buried at the end of the Nature Communications study that the headlines completely missed when this research came out. It changes the picture significantly. I will show it to you before this video is over. The biology, the numbers, the specific window. Starting now, my name is Dr. Ben. This channel exists because your doctor's appointments are 12 minutes long. 12 minutes to cover your medications, your blood pressure, your labs, and dinner timing, something that may be working against your heart every night, never makes the list. Everything you are about to hear is peer-reviewed science from named researchers in named journals. I will tell you exactly where every number comes from, and I will tell you what the research cannot yet prove, because that matters too. Most people know the obvious things that damage the heart over time: smoking, poor diet, inactivity, high blood pressure left untreated. What almost nobody knows, including most of the people managing those conditions, is that there is a specific window every night when the heart either recovers from the day or does not. And whether that window opens or stays closed depends in part on what time you ate dinner. Doctors have a name for this window. They call it the dipping pattern. In a healthy cardiovascular system, blood pressure drops by 10 to 20% during sleep. Not gradually across the whole night, specifically during the deeper hours, when your body shifts fully into recovery mode. That drop is not optional. It is not a bonus for people who sleep well. It is when your arteries rest, when the pressure on your vessel walls finally releases after a full day of work, when your heart muscle catches its breath. People whose blood pressure does not drop during sleep, a pattern doctors call non-dipping, have significantly higher rates of heart attack, stroke, kidney damage, and early death. Research published in the American Heart Association's journal Hypertension confirms that non-dipping blood pressure is one of the most under-recognized cardiovascular risk factors in older adults. And the number of people over 60 who are non-dippers, without knowing it, is striking. Studies estimate that non-dipping occurs in as many as 45% of adults with hypertension. Standard daytime blood pressure readings do not catch it. Most doctors do not routinely order the 24-hour ambulatory monitoring that would, which means millions of people are managing their blood pressure based on measurements taken at the wrong time of day, while the real problem happens while they sleep. Now, what causes it, and why dinner is part of the answer? The 2023 Nature Communications study was led by Dr. Anna Palomar-Croze and colleagues from the Barcelona Institute for Global Health, INRAE, and Inserm in France. They analyzed data from 103,389 participants in the NutriNet-Santé cohort, one of the largest nutrition studies in the world, followed from 2009 through 2022. Participants did not just answer a single survey question about what they ate. They kept repeated detailed dietary records over years. Researchers then mapped those mealtimes against cardiovascular disease outcomes, controlling for diet quality, sleep, physical activity, smoking, alcohol, and socioeconomic factors. The dinner finding: eating a last meal after 9 at night was associated with a 28% higher risk of cerebrovascular disease, primarily stroke, compared with eating before 8. Each additional hour of delay in the last meal added risk incrementally. This is observational research. It identifies a strong, consistent pattern across more than 100,000 people over more than a decade. But it cannot prove that late dinner causes stroke. It is possible that people who eat late have other unmeasured habits that drive the risk. The researchers were careful about this. They controlled for as many variables as they could. The association held. And it is not the only evidence pointing this direction. A separate study published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging in 2023, this one using NHANES data nearly 12, 0 American adults age 50 and older, followed for more than 8 years, found that late-night overeating was associated with a doubling of Cardiovascular disease mortality, a hazard ratio of 2.2, twice as likely to die from cardiovascular causes during the follow-up period. Two independent large data sets. Two different continents, two different methodologies, both pointing in the same direction. Something is happening. The mechanism, which I have been holding back until now, because understanding it changes everything, explains why. Robert is 67. He works late, always has. Dinner at 8:30, sometimes 9. A glass of wine, a full plate. He goes to bed around 11 and sleeps reasonably well. His morning blood pressure checks look acceptable to his doctor. His prescription is managed accordingly. What his doctor has never measured is what Robert's blood pressure does between midnight and 4 in the morning. Because Robert is a non-dipper, his blood pressure barely drops at night. While he sleeps, his arteries are still under near-daytime pressure. His heart never fully rests. This is happening inside millions of people tonight. Almost none of them know it. Here is the mechanism. When you eat a meal, your body launches a coordinated response. Digestion begins. Blood flow shifts toward your gut. Insulin rises. And your sympathetic nervous system, the system that controls your fight or flight response, that keeps you alert and reactive, increases its activity. During the day, this is exactly what your body is designed to do. It handles the post-meal surge efficiently and returns to baseline within a few hours. But at night, your body is running a different program entirely. By 9 or 10 in the evening, cortisol has been falling for hours. Melatonin is rising. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the counterpart to fight or flight, the one that governs rest and recovery, is trying to take over. Every organ is preparing to shift into the protected overnight state. When you eat a large meal at 9 or 10 at night, you are sending a wake-up signal into a system that is trying to go quiet. Your sympathetic nervous system, which should be stepping back, gets activated again by the demands of digestion. It stays elevated when it needs to wind down. And blood pressure, which should be dropping toward that 10 to 20% nightly dip, stays high. The dip never arrives, or it comes too late and too shallow. Your arteries work through the night. Your heart never fully rests. And this is not a one-night problem. This is every night, compounding over months and years, while standard daytime blood pressure readings continue to look manageable. Robert's morning reading looks fine. His doctor adjusts his medication accordingly. Neither of them knows that between midnight and 4, the real damage is being done. Now, the part that actually gives you something to do about this. Food timing is modifiable. You do not need surgery, a new prescription, or an expensive device. A 2021 study in diabetic animal models, and I am citing this carefully because it is not human research, found that imposing a consistent earlier feeding schedule reversed the non-dipping blood pressure pattern that had developed with disrupted eating. The University of Wisconsin, in collaboration with the American Heart Association, has since launched a clinical trial in humans specifically to test whether meal timing can improve nocturnal blood pressure dipping. That trial is ongoing. The full picture is still emerging. But based on what we know now, there is a clear, low-risk action to take. The specific window the research supports: finish your last meal of the day at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. For most people over 60 who sleep around 10 or 11, that means dinner by 7:30 or 8 at the latest. The NutriNet-Santé study found the strongest protective effect in people who finished eating before 8. This is not the same as eating less. You can eat the same food, the same calories, just earlier. And now, the second finding from that Nature Communications study that the headlines missed, the one I mentioned at the very start. The researchers found that the longer the gap between your last meal and your first meal, the next morning, what they call nighttime fasting duration, the lower the risk of cerebrovascular disease. Not a shorter eating window squeezed into the middle of the day, not skipping breakfast. Simply finishing dinner earlier and eating breakfast at a consistent morning time, extending the overnight protected window on both ends. That is the finding that most articles ignored. Longer nighttime fasting, achieved by moving dinner earlier, independently reduced stroke risk. Not from eating less. From the timing alone, you are not fasting, you are not dieting. You are giving your heart the window it was designed to use every night. 2 things to take away from this. 1. Move dinner earlier. Not dramatically, you do not need to eat at 5. But finishing by 7:30 or 8 gives your body 2 to 3 hours before sleep begins. That window is when the chemistry shifts, digestion slows, sympathetic activity steps back. Your blood pressure has the time it needs to begin its drop. 2. Make the last meal lighter. A heavy dinner at any time generates more post-meal metabolic activity than a lighter one. If you cannot always eat early, eat less at night. The NHANES study specifically found that the risk concentrated in late-night overeating, consuming more than 40% of daily calories after the evening meal. That is the combination that most sharply elevated cardiovascular mortality. Move the meal earlier when you can, and make it lighter when you cannot move it. Everything in this video is for educational purposes only. It is not a replacement for your medical care. If you manage hypertension, heart disease, or any cardiovascular condition, bring this research to your doctor before making changes. Here is the question I want to leave with you. What time did you eat dinner last night? If it was before 8, your heart had the window it needed. If it was later, now you understand exactly what was happening while you slept and what to change tonight. Which brings me to something directly connected to what we just covered. Most of you watching this take blood pressure medication, and most of you take it in the morning. Your doctor said morning, the label says morning, the pharmacy said morning. But a large randomized controlled trial, the Hygia chronotherapy trial, published in the European Heart Journal, tested what happens when blood pressure medication is taken at bedtime instead. The people who took their medication at night reduced their risk of heart attack, stroke, and cardiovascular death by nearly half, compared with the people taking the same medication at the same dose in the morning. Nearly half. Same drug, same dose, different time. Almost no prescription label mentions this. Almost no 12-minute appointment covers it. That is the next video. If you have a blood pressure prescription in your medicine cabinet right now, I would watch it before tomorrow morning's dose. I will see you there.